Alrighty, hello Bookmas. Another day, another video. Today's video is going to be kind of our first video looking forward to next year. What is 2025 have in store for us? Bookish edition. So I'm going to be talking about my anticipated releases and maybe some 5-star predictions as well. So grab a cup of coffee, grab a little drink, let's get cozy. I will be referring to my handy dandy phone for this video because I have kind of all of my releases or anticipated releases jotted down here. So I'm going to be referring to that and then we can discuss them. So first one that I am anticipating and excited for is going to be obviously Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This comes out early in the year, I think in January. So that's obviously going to be one of the very first ones. And I think this is a highly anticipated read for many people because this is the third book in the Empyrean series. If you know Fourth Wing, you know this series. This is the series I'm referring to. The next book is Iron Flame and now Onyx Storm is coming out next month. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest, I have not even picked up or read Iron Flame, which is the second book, but I do plan on doing so before reading Onyx Storm. So I'm still gonna probably buy Onyx Storm, and whether or not I read it right away, who knows, because I do obviously want to finish the second book in the series before I hop into the third. But I am very excited for it and I am anticipating it because this is actually one of the only fantasy series I feel like that I genuinely enjoy. Now, I haven't heard the greatest things about Iron Flame, the second book, so we'll see where that stands after that book, but at least my motivation for getting through Iron Flame will be the third book, Onyx Storm. Next up is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which comes out early February. Now, Ali Hazelwood is queen of STEM romances, like that's what she's known for. This one is a bit more of a spicy romance, which I'm very interested in seeing kind of what she does with it. I do really enjoy Ali Hazelwood's banter, like when she creates her female main characters, the way they banter to their partners is really good and it's funny and it's realistic. I am looking forward to seeing kind of what she's gonna do with Deep End. I do love the cover. It's definitely giving tension, sexual tension if anything. So yeah, I'm just more interested to see what it's gonna be like. I do feel like I'll enjoy it and I do want to pick it up because I am a fan overall of Ali Hazelwood's works and I really don't know what it's about, so we'll leave it at that. Next up is Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This is book 3 in her Powerless series. I think it's a trilogy and I think this is the last book actually. So that's gonna be interesting. I read Powerless a few months ago and now I'm in the middle of reading, what are the books called? The other 2 books in between. So it's, honestly, I get so confused with these book titles because literally Chestnut Springs has the exact same book titles. Fearless, Reckless, Powerless, all these titles are the same. So I'm like, what order am I even thinking of? Like, what series am I thinking of? Powerful and Reckless, I think, are the 2 books in between Powerless and Fearless. Wow, that is a mind clustering mess. But anyway, I am in the middle of reading those, so I am looking forward to this new release. I do really enjoy this series. This is another fantasy series that has a heavy romance subplot that I genuinely do enjoy. Next up is going to be Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, coming out in April. Now, of course, I feel like this book is going to be on everybody's, anticipated release list for 2025 because it's Emily Henry. She's a very well-known author. I have read all of her books now. Yep, I'm all up to date with all of her books and I do really enjoy them. I will say this new release is going to be about a writer, about an author. So I'm very excited for this one specifically because one of, if not my favorite Emily Henry book is Book Lovers, and that one is also kind of about 2 literary agents or 2 people in the book world, publishing world specifically. So this new one being about an author is so interesting and we're going to see a lot of reflections on Emily Henry herself as an author and just life in the bookish world, which I'm so excited for. Again, Emily Henry, great banter, great plot, great romance. I feel like this is going to be a good one. Next up is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, coming out in April. So this one, again, very excited for. Emily Henry is honestly like an auto-buy author for me, so of course I'm going to be very interested in reading this next book. I've read all of Abby Jimenez's books except for the one that came out this year, which was just for the summer, but besides that, I've read all of her other ones and they're amazing, they're great. She is such a good romance author that adds emotional depth and substance to her writing, so I really appreciate that. This one in particular, don't know what it's going to be about. I think it's about a veterinarian and like her romance. But other than that, I don't really know much. I'm basically just going to pick this book up because, like I mentioned, Abby Jimenez is an auto-buy author for me. The cover is beautiful. Say You'll Remember Me is such a great title. Like, it just rolls off the tongue, so I really like that. I feel like Abby Jimenez's writing is getting better and better, and so if this is her peak, I want to read it and enjoy it. Next up is going to be Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, coming out in March, I believe. Now this is going to be a Hunger Games book. I haven't read the entire series. I do remember reading Catching Fire when I was like a freshman in high school, and then I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes last year before the movie came out and really enjoyed it. I do one day want to go back and probably read the entire series, but for now, since this is the new release coming out, I will be reading it, especially since I read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and I really enjoyed that, and then I love the movies. So this one I think I will also really enjoy. This is about Haymitch and his games and what happened to him to make him the person that he is today in the series that we currently have. So I'm very interested to see what that's going to be like. I do really enjoy Suzanne Collins' writing and her work as an author. I feel like she always just has kind of a play on what's actually happening in the real world. So I'm just very excited to see the tie-ins that she's gonna have and the maybe metaphors and similarities. Also, Haymitch, I'm scared to read like what's gonna happen to him and what has happened to him. It's just super intriguing to see finally the history of one of the most prolific characters in this entire series. Next up is a book called First Time Caller by B.K. Borison that comes out also in February, I think. Now this one, I won't even lie to you, I don't know who this author is. I don't think I've ever read any of his works, and I don't really know what the book is about. I know it's a romance between like a radio show host and someone else, but that's all I know. The main reason I want to read this book is because of the cover. I am that type of person who will pick up a book because the cover is beautiful, and this one is just calling my name. It just looks really interesting, and I'm like interested to see what's inside of this book, and I think that's what the cover's job is. Pretty short and sweet on this book because I don't really know what it's about, but it's one of those ones that piques your interest, introduces you to a new author, and the cover is doing just that for me. Next up is Love Arranged by Lauren Asher, which comes out in May of 2025. I think this is a continuation of the Lake Wisteria like Billionaires series. I've only read Love Redesigned, which is the first book in that series. I do own the second one, I just haven't read it. I do want to obviously read the second one ASAP before this third one comes out. Now the cover isn't even out yet, it's not been revealed, but I still do want to read it. I know the cover is going to be beautiful because Lauren Asher has honestly been popping off with her covers recently, this series included. Probably gonna pick this book up for sure. She's a queen at doing billionaire romances, so if you do like that, then I absolutely recommend Lauren Asher because she's a queen at doing what she does. Next up is going to be Synth and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver, which comes out in February. It's going to be book 3 in, honestly I don't even know what the series is called, but Butcher and Blackbird was first, Leather and Lark was second, and now Synth and Sparrow is third. So I read Butcher and Blackbird, planning on reading Leather and Lark soon before the third one comes out because they're all kind of murky, dark serial killer romances, which not my usual cup of tea. I like more, you know, just emotional romances, but these ones are good. They're funny, they're bantery, they're spicy. Yeah, they're just a different little genre within the romance umbrella that I tend to lean for sometimes because they're just entertaining, a little bit bonkers, but sometimes you need that. So I'm very excited to continue this series, and I will probably be picking up this book next year. Continuing on because I will just yap for the longest time. So next up is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, out in May. Now, Miss Carly Fortune is a little bit of a roller coaster ride with me. I have read all of her books, and her last book, This Summer Will Be Different, is that what it was called? She writes sort of lake romances, so summertime lake romances, ones that take place at the lake and are romances, and they're all very similar setting, so that's why their titles and covers, their covers I can remember, but their titles get a little bit confusing for me. But her last book that came out this year, let's just make it simple, I actually really enjoyed. At the time I didn't rate it 5 stars, but I do always think about that book and I have a special place in my heart for it. I'm a little fond towards it, so I think in retrospect it might be a 5-star. That being said, I am on a high note with Carly Fortune, and I'm very much anticipating her next read. If it's anything like the one that came out this year, then sign me up. Like, I'm so excited. She has had some, or just one honestly, that fell a little flat for me, which was her second book. I loved Every Last Summer, didn't love the second one, absolutely love the third, and now this is her fourth. So hopefully it's not that same pattern and we can break out of that. I mean, I'm mostly just anticipating it because I loved her last book. And honestly, sometimes you just need a light summertime lake romance. Obviously gonna pick it up because the vibes themselves are vibing. Crossing my fingers that I love it. Next up is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I'm gonna make this short and sweet. This is another book in her new series. I haven't even started it, but I do own the first one, planning on buying the second one, and this is her third release. So it's a series. I am in the middle of reading Chestnut Springs and I haven't finished it, but I am anticipating this next release because I want to read it eventually. Will it be next year? Crossing my fingers and hoping it will be, but I'm gonna still probably end up buying it. Okay, next up, The Crash by Miss Frida McFadden, out in January. This woman does not rest. Like, she is always coming out with new books. She has a ton of books that are already out. I do not know how she does it. Her last book, The Boyfriend, I read last month and I really enjoyed it. I honestly haven't read a Frida McFadden book that has fallen flat for me. Yes, some of them aren't my favorite thriller mysteries ever, but they're still enjoyable in the moment. I read them really quickly and I am like satisfied at the end. So this one, The Crash, sounds really, really interesting. Basically, it's about a woman who's pregnant and she's going to like some sort of location, but there's like a big storm and a blizzard and she crashes. And so she ends up at this cabin with this like couple who takes her in. And obviously things are not as merrily, happily as they seem because some sketchy stuff starts happening. Now, this book sounds like the perfect wintertime thriller mystery and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Again, Frida McFadden has not done me wrong yet, and I'm hoping this book will just continue doing what her other books have done for me, which is just get me out of a little bit of a slump, put me on the right track, get me excited, and just adding more of her books to my like backlist that I have read, because I do truly enjoy her work as an author. Next up, 3 Days in June by Anne Tyler. Honestly, this is one of those books that I picked up and added to this list because of the cover. I think the cover is really pretty and it's a bit intriguing. It's a little mysterious. I don't think this is a thriller mystery. It's more of just like a fiction book, but it's intriguing me and that's all a good cover should be doing. I did kind of look into it a little bit and it's basically about like a mother who her life is a bit in shambles. Like, she's just kind of everywhere. Her daughter is gonna get married and so she's trying to get her life together for that. And then beyond that, I don't know too much, but I'm assuming it'll be about womanhood, motherhood, those types of feel-good, hit you in the heart type stories. Again, shout out to the cover because you made it on this list because of that. I don't think I've ever read that author before either. Next up, This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. Ashley Winstead, I read one other of her books and it is The Last Housewife, and that book was so good. It's a thriller mystery, so I'm assuming this one is as well, but I'm honestly picking, well, an accent came out there. I'm honestly picking it up because I enjoyed her last book. This one sounds really interesting. So our main character is sort of true crime junkie, loves those types of stories, and when she hears about these 3 deaths or murders at her local college, all 3 were women, she tries to go and investigate it. And so just that, I'm hooked. Like, that sounds so interesting. And just knowing the way that her last book kind of turned out and the writing for that one, I'm looking forward to this one because I really think it will be good. Bottom line. Next one is Swept Away by Beth O'Leary, out in like March or April of next year. Beth O'Leary, I do enjoy her writing. I haven't read one of her books at all this year, I think. I think the last one I read was probably like last year, which is weird because I do like her writing. And I think this is her new, I don't think she came out with a book this year, so probably that's why I kind of just put her in the back of my head because I was trying to read books from other authors that had new releases and then just other books that were like on my immediate TBR. Beth O'Leary for me has fallen behind a little bit, but I have not picked up a book from her that I didn't like. Most of her books are romances, but at least the ones that I have read have some sort of like mental health tie-in, and it's so interesting and enlightening to just read those types of books because they're just so realistic of real life. Don't really know what this one is about, but if it's anything like her other works, if it's a romance with some sort of mental health tie-in, then I'm all in. Next up is, oh, actually, that was it. that was it. We made it through our list of highly anticipated reads for 2025. I know that was kind of a lot, but there are just so many releases next year. We are being fed. I feel like there were so many releases this year, so I just thank you authors. Thank you some of my favorite authors for continuing to work and writing books, because that just makes me happy and I get to read more of your work. Let's talk about our 5-star predictions. I'm bringing you a bit closer for this portion of the video. Okay, so 5-star prediction for the books that we just talked about. First one being Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I mean, like I mentioned, I think this book being about like the book writing world and an author is going to just hit different for me. With her recent releases, Happy Place, I gave it like 4.5 stars, and then Funny Story was maybe like just a 4-star read. So her books, typically, I don't think I've ever rated one of her books 5 stars, but looking back, if I would have, it probably would have been Book Lovers, which I feel like this one's going to be the most similar to. So that's why I'm just going to give it a 5-star prediction. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Of course, I was just saying she is an auto-buy author for me. In my opinion, her trajectory is going up in regards to ratings and just her work in general. Her last book that I read was Yours Truly. 5-star read, if not higher. That was such a good book, and if Just for the Summer is anything like it, then of course that'll probably get a 5-star for me as well. And then this new book, I just think it has a lot going for it to be a 5-star read. Next up, One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. Like I also mentioned, her last book that I read, so good. If it's anything like it, it'll also be a 5-star. Hopefully she found kind of her stride. I think her last book, the one that I'm talking about, really was regarded as one of her best and just kind of took back her reputation as a solid romance writer that her second book kind of just didn't meet up to. I don't know if it was just me or if it was like the general public thinking that. Hopefully this one is just as good, and if it is, then it's gonna be 5 stars. I have 2 more 5-star predictions from the list that we kind of talked about. The second one being This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. Again, I think her writing is really good. Her thriller mysteries are so complex. They're easy to follow though, and they keep you entertained. Just looking back at The Last Housewife, which is the book that I'm referring to that I read by this author, it was just really well done. The plot was great. It was so complex, but again, easy to follow. It just took us step by step by step, but there were so many kind of characteristics and outliers in her plot that made it very, very unique. Hopefully this one is as well. Again, the initial premise, very, very intriguing. I think it will be a 5-star. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Last but not least, Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. Again, I already kind of talked about this, but I do really, really like her writing. Again, her romances usually have a bit more substance, have that emotional depth, and have those kind of heavier topics that sometimes authors or romance writers in general tend to lean away from, because they do sometimes could take away from like the romance and happy giddiness, which I totally understand and I get that choice. But Beth O'Leary does not shy away from that, and she still makes it so that we have a really cute romance. But sometimes our main characters are struggling with things internally, or they have stuff from their past that has traumatized them that they need to deal with in order to move forward in their new relationships. And so for those reasons, I think Beth O'Leary's work is immaculate, and I cannot wait to get my hands on her new release, read it, and hopefully rate it 5 stars. So those are all of my 5-star predictions for 2025 and all of my anticipated reads. Now, I know that was a lot, but again, 2025 is going to be a killer year for book releases, and I cannot wait to just get my hands on some of these books. 2025 is looking so bright for us bookish readers, people in general. So thank you guys so much for watching another BOOKMAS video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Subscribe, like, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.